October 12th, 1965. The morning bell at St. Augustine Catholic School in Philadelphia should have rung at exactly 8 o'clock, just as it had every school day for the past 37 years. But on this crisp autumn morning, the silence that followed would echo through the halls of justice for nearly 6 decades. Philadelphia in 1965 was a city caught between tradition and transformation. The civil rights movement was reshaping America's social landscape, while the Catholic Church maintained its steadfast influence over the city's educational system. St. Augustine's, nestled in the heart of North Philadelphia's working-class neighborhood, served as more than just a school. It was the cornerstone of a tight-knit community where everyone knew their neighbors and children walked to school without fear. The red brick building on Germantown Avenue had educated 3 generations of Irish, Italian, and Polish immigrant families. Its Gothic windows and towering spire cast long shadows over the playground where children gathered each morning, their voices creating a familiar symphony of laughter and chatter that neighbors had grown to expect with the sunrise. Sister Mary Josephine had taught 4th grade at St. Augustine's for 12 years. According to school records, she was known for her gentle demeanor and unwavering dedication to her students. The 41-year-old nun arrived at school each morning at 7:30 sharp, always carrying her worn leather satchel filled with carefully prepared lesson plans and small treats for children who excelled in their studies. Born Margaret O'Sullivan in County Cork in Ireland, she had immigrated to Philadelphia with her family at age 16. Friends and colleagues described her as someone who found her calling early in life, dedicating herself to education and faith with equal passion. Former students would later recall her patient explanations of arithmetic problems and her habit of staying after school to help struggling readers catch up with their classmates. The neighborhood surrounding St. Augustine's reflected the working-class values of post-war America. Fathers worked in the nearby textile mills and shipyards, while mothers managed households and volunteered for church activities. Children played stickball in the streets and gathered at Murphy's Corner store for penny candy after school. Crime was not unknown to the area, but violent incidents remained rare enough to shock the entire community when they occurred. On that particular Tuesday morning, the usual routine began as expected. The custodian, Mr. Patrick Donnelly, had unlocked the school doors at 7 o'clock and begun his daily preparations. The coffee pot in the teacher's lounge was brewing, and the American flag hung proudly outside the main entrance, just as it did every day. According to police reports filed that morning, several teachers arrived between 7:15 and 7:45, greeting each other with the familiar warmth of colleagues who had worked together for years. The school secretary, Mrs. Helen Kowalski, had settled into her office and begun organizing the day's attendance sheets and announcements. But Sister Mary Josephine's classroom remained dark. At 7:55, Mrs. Kowalski noticed the absence. School policy required all teachers to check in at the main office before 8 o'clock. And Sister Mary Josephine had never missed this routine in her 12 years of service. A quick check of the parking area behind the school revealed her modest blue Plymouth Valiant in its usual spot, suggesting she had arrived as scheduled. The principal, Father William McCarthy, made the decision to investigate. According to witness statements provided to authorities, he walked the familiar path to the 4th grade classroom, expecting to find Sister Mary Josephine preparing for the day ahead. Instead, he discovered a scene that would haunt the St. Augustine's community for generations to come. The classroom door stood slightly ajar. Inside, desks remained arranged in their perfect rows. The chalkboard displayed yesterday's arithmetic lesson, and morning sunlight streamed through windows that Sister Mary Josephine had always kept spotlessly clean. But the dedicated teacher was nowhere to be found. What Father McCarthy discovered next would transform this quiet Catholic school into the center of one of Philadelphia's most enduring mysteries. The investigation that followed would span nearly 60 years, involve multiple generations of detectives, and ultimately showcase how advances in forensic science could bring justice to cases long thought unsolvable. The bell that should have rung that morning would remain silent as the Philadelphia Police Department began an investigation that would challenge everything the St. Augustine's community thought they knew about safety, trust, and the people they welcomed into their most sacred spaces. Philadelphia, in October 1965, stood as a testament to American resilience and tradition. The city's skyline, dominated by City Hall's towering clock, reflected a metropolis where old-world values met the changing tides of the modern era. The Vietnam War was escalating. President Johnson's Great Society programs were reshaping domestic policy, and the Second Vatican Council was transforming Catholic practices worldwide. Yet within the walls of St. Augustine's, time seemed to move at its own measured pace. The school had been established in 1928 by the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, built with donations from parishioners who scraped together their hard-earned dollars during the Great Depression. The Gothic Revival architecture spoke to the community's aspirations, soaring arches and stained glass windows that reminded students daily of something greater than themselves. By 1965, the building housed 423 students from kindergarten through 8th grade, making it one of the larger Catholic elementary schools in North Philadelphia. The neighborhood surrounding St. Augustine's embodied the American dream in miniature. Row houses lined the streets in neat formations, each with small front porches where neighbors gathered on summer evenings. Corner stores served as community hubs where residents exchanged news and gossip over morning coffee. The local parish church, also named St. Augustine's, anchored the spiritual life of families who had often attended the same pews for decades. Sister Mary Josephine had become an integral part of this tightly woven community fabric. Born Margaret O'Sullivan in 1924, she had entered the Sisters of Mercy convent at age 21, taking her religious vows in 1947. Her journey to St. Augustine's began in 1953 when the Archdiocese assigned her to teach 3rd grade. According to personnel records, her dedication quickly earned recognition from both administrators and parents. Former colleagues described her as methodical in her approach to education, arriving each morning with detailed lesson plans written in her precise handwriting. She maintained correspondence with former students who had graduated and moved on to high school, often receiving letters updating her on their academic progress and personal milestones. Her classroom walls displayed student artwork alongside religious imagery, creating an environment that balanced academic achievement with spiritual growth. The teaching staff at St. Augustine's formed a close-knit group of 15 educators, including 8 nuns and 7 lay teachers. They gathered each morning in the faculty lounge before classes began, sharing coffee and discussing the day ahead. Sister Mary Josephine was known for her quiet contributions to these conversations, often offering practical solutions to classroom challenges or volunteering to help struggling colleagues with difficult students. The school's daily routine reflected the structured nature of Catholic education in the 1960s. Students attended morning mass twice weekly, recited prayers before each class, and participated in religious instruction alongside traditional academic subjects. Discipline was strict but fair, with most infractions resulting in extra homework or after-school detention rather than harsh punishment. Parents in the St. Augustine's community made significant financial sacrifices to provide their children with Catholic education. Tuition in 1965 cost $35 per month per child, a substantial sum for families where fathers typically earned between $80 and $100 weekly in factory jobs or skilled trades. Many mothers worked part-time positions to help cover educational expenses, viewing their children's schooling as an investment in the family's future. The school's location on Germantown Avenue placed it at the heart of a neighborhood in transition. While still predominantly white and Catholic, The area was beginning to experience the demographic shifts that would reshape much of Philadelphia during the late 1960s. Local business owners knew most families by name, and children moved freely through the streets under the watchful eyes of neighbors who considered themselves extended family. Sister Mary Josephine's personal quarters consisted of a small room in the convent adjacent to the school building. According to convent records, she shared living space with 5 other nuns who taught at St. Augustine's or worked in parish ministries. Their daily schedule included communal prayers at dawn, breakfast together before school, and evening reflection after the day's teaching duties concluded. The trust placed in religious educators during this era was absolute and unquestioned. Parents viewed nuns and priests as moral authorities whose dedication to God guaranteed their children's safety and spiritual development. Background checks for school employees were virtually non-existent, and hiring decisions relied primarily on recommendations from church hierarchy and personal references. This atmosphere of implicit trust and community solidarity would make the events of October 12, 1965, all the more shocking to a neighborhood that had never questioned the sanctity of their most cherished institution. Father McCarthy's footsteps echoed through the empty hallway as he approached Sister Mary Josephine's classroom at 8:05 that Tuesday morning. The familiar sounds of a school preparing for another day, children's voices in the distance, locker doors closing, the hum of fluorescent lights created a backdrop that made the silence from the 4th grade wing all the more noticeable. According to police reports filed later that morning, Father McCarthy initially assumed Sister Mary Josephine had simply stepped away from her classroom for a brief moment. The door stood partially open, which was unusual, but not unprecedented. Teachers occasionally visited the supply closet or made last-minute copies before students arrived. The principal called out a greeting as he approached the doorway. When no response came, he pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The classroom appeared normal at first glance, 28 desks arranged in neat rows, the previous day's arithmetic problems still visible on the chalkboard, and morning sunlight streaming through windows that faced the school's small courtyard. But Sister Mary Josephine was not at her desk preparing for the day ahead. Father McCarthy's initial concern quickly transformed into alarm when he noticed signs of disturbance that contradicted the classroom's otherwise orderly appearance. According to witness statements provided to investigators, several items appeared out of place in ways that suggested something had gone wrong. The principal immediately contacted the school's main office, instructing Mrs. Kowalski to call the Philadelphia Police Department. Within minutes, the first patrol officers arrived at St. Augustine's, their presence marking the beginning of what would become one of the city's most enduring unsolved cases. Detective Raymond Sullivan of the Philadelphia Police Department's Homicide Division took charge of the initial investigation. According to departmental records, Sullivan was a 20-year veteran known for his methodical approach to crime scene analysis. His preliminary examination of the classroom revealed evidence that Sister Mary Josephine had encountered violence during what should have been her routine morning preparation. The investigation quickly expanded beyond the classroom itself. Officers secured the entire school building, interviewing staff members who had arrived early that morning. Each teacher and administrator provided detailed accounts of their movements and observations, creating a timeline that would prove crucial to understanding the sequence of events. Mrs. Kowalski reported that she had seen Sister Mary Josephine's car in the parking area when she arrived at 7:30, confirming that the teacher had reached school at her usual time. The custodian, Mr. Donnelly, stated that all exterior doors had been properly locked when he opened the building at 7 o'clock, suggesting that whoever was responsible had either possessed a key or gained entry through other means. According to police documentation, the crime scene indicated that Sister Mary Josephine had been attacked while preparing for her teaching day. The nature of the assault, while not described in graphic detail in official reports, was severe enough to result in her death. Investigators noted that the classroom showed signs of a struggle, though the disturbance was relatively contained. The discovery sent immediate shockwaves through the St. Augustine's community. Parents who had dropped their children off for school were contacted and asked to retrieve them immediately. Students who had already arrived were gathered in the gymnasium, while administrators worked with police to ensure their safety and arrange for counseling services. News of the incident spread rapidly through the neighborhood. Within hours, concerned residents had gathered outside the school, many clutching rosary beads and offering prayers for Sister Mary Josephine's soul. The local television stations arrived by mid-morning, their cameras capturing images of a community struggling to comprehend how violence had penetrated their sanctuary of learning and faith. The Archdiocese of Philadelphia issued a statement expressing profound grief over the loss of Sister Mary Josephine and pledging full cooperation with law enforcement. Church officials emphasized their commitment to maintaining the safety of all students and staff while supporting the investigation in every possible way. As word spread throughout Philadelphia's Catholic community, the crime took on significance beyond the immediate tragedy. The violation of such a sacred space challenged fundamental assumptions about safety and trust that had governed Catholic education for generations. Detective Sullivan and his team worked through the day, collecting evidence and conducting interviews that would form the foundation of an investigation destined to span decades. The case that began with a missing teacher's morning greeting would evolve into a testament to both the persistence of law enforcement and the eventual power of scientific advancement to deliver justice. The Philadelphia Police Department's investigation into Sister Mary Josephine's death began with the methodical precision that characterized Detective Sullivan's approach to homicide cases. Within 24 hours of the discovery, investigators had established a command center at the local precinct and begun pursuing multiple lines of inquiry that would consume hundreds of man-hours over the following months. According to police records, the initial investigation focused on three primary areas of interest. First, detectives examined the possibility of a random break-in that had escalated into violence. The school's location on a busy commercial street made it accessible to transients and individuals unfamiliar with the neighborhood's tight-knit nature. Second, investigators explored potential connections to Sister Mary Josephine's personal history, interviewing family members and former colleagues for any indication of past conflicts or threats. Third, the department conducted extensive background checks on all school employees and frequent visitors to the campus. The forensic capabilities available to investigators in 1965 were limited compared to modern standards. Crime scene technicians collected fingerprints from the classroom and surrounding areas, but the manual comparison process was time-consuming and often inconclusive. Blood evidence was analyzed using basic typing methods that could eliminate some suspects, but could not provide the definitive identification that DNA analysis would later make possible. Detective Sullivan's team interviewed more than 200 individuals during the first month of the investigation. School staff members underwent multiple questioning sessions, each providing detailed accounts of their whereabouts and observations from October 12th. Parents who had dropped children off early that morning were contacted and asked to recall any unusual activity they might have witnessed in the vicinity of St. Augustine's. One early lead involved a maintenance worker who had been employed at the school during the previous academic year, but had left under unclear circumstances. According to investigative files, this individual had been dismissed following complaints about inappropriate behavior, though the specific nature of these complaints was not detailed in available records. Detectives spent considerable time tracking down this former employee, only to discover that he had been working at a construction site in Camden, New Jersey, on the morning in question, with multiple witnesses confirming his presence. Another promising avenue of investigation emerged when neighbors reported seeing an unfamiliar vehicle parked near the school on several occasions during the weeks preceding the incident. Witnesses provided varying descriptions of the car's make, model, and color, leading to an extensive search for matching vehicles in the Philadelphia area. This investigation ultimately proved fruitless when detectives determined that the vehicle belonged to a parent who had been picking up a child for medical appointments. The investigation also explored potential connections to other unsolved crimes in the Philadelphia area. During the 1960s, the city experienced periodic incidents of violence against women, and investigators examined whether Sister Mary Josephine's death might be linked to a pattern of criminal behavior. This line of inquiry led to the questioning of several individuals with criminal records, but no substantial connections were established. Perhaps the most significant challenge facing investigators was the lack of witnesses to the actual crime. The early morning timing meant that few people were present in the area when the incident occurred. The custodian had been working in a different section of the building, and other staff members had not yet arrived when the attack took place. This absence of eyewitness testimony forced detectives to rely heavily on physical evidence and circumstantial information. As weeks turned into months, the investigation began to lose momentum. The Philadelphia Police Department continued to pursue leads as they emerged, but the case gradually shifted from active investigation to periodic review. Detective Sullivan maintained regular contact with the Archdiocese and Sister Mary Josephine's family, providing updates on any developments while acknowledging the growing challenges facing the investigation. The limitations of 1960s investigative techniques became increasingly apparent as the case progressed. Without advanced forensic capabilities, surveillance technology, or comprehensive databases, investigators found themselves relying on traditional police work that, while thorough, could not overcome the fundamental lack of conclusive evidence needed to identify and prosecute a suspect. By the spring of 1966, the case had effectively stalled, joining the growing number of unsolved homicides that would haunt the Philadelphia Police Department for decades to come. By 1967, the investigation into Sister Mary Josephine's death had entered what law enforcement officials quietly acknowledged as a cold case status. The Philadelphia Police Department maintained the file in their active records, but the daily urgency that had driven the initial investigation had given way to periodic reviews and the occasional follow-up on tips that continued to trickle in from concerned citizens. The impact on St. Augustine's Catholic school proved both immediate and enduring. According to Archdiocese records, enrollment dropped by nearly 30% during the 1965-1966 academic year as parents transferred their children to other institutions. The classroom where Sister Mary Josephine had taught was converted into a library, with administrators citing the need for expanded educational resources rather than acknowledging the psychological difficulty of returning the space to regular instruction. Father McCarthy, who had discovered the crime scene, requested a transfer to another parish in 1968. Church officials granted his request, and he spent the remainder of his career serving rural communities outside Philadelphia. His departure marked the end of an era for St. Augustine's, as he had been a stabilizing presence during the school's most traumatic period. The teaching staff that remained at St. Augustine's struggled with the psychological aftermath of the tragedy. According to personnel files, 3 nuns requested transfers to other schools within 2 years of the incident. Those who stayed reported difficulty sleeping and persistent anxiety about their personal safety. The close-knit faculty relationships that had characterized the school began to show strain as trust became a more complicated emotion. Security measures at Catholic schools throughout the Philadelphia Archdiocese underwent significant changes in response to the crime. New policies required all exterior doors to remain locked during school hours, with visitors required to check in at the main office before proceeding to classrooms. Background checks for employees, while still rudimentary by modern standards, became more thorough and systematic. The O'Sullivan family, Sister Mary Josephine's relatives in Ireland and Philadelphia, maintained regular contact with investigators for more than a decade following her death. Her brother Patrick, who worked as a longshoreman at the Philadelphia docks, made annual visits to the police department seeking updates on the case. Family members established a small memorial fund that provided scholarships for students at St. Augustine's, ensuring that her commitment to education would continue despite the tragedy. Local media coverage of the case diminished significantly after the first anniversary of the crime. The Philadelphia Inquirer published occasional updates when new leads emerged, but the story gradually faded from public attention as other crimes and social issues dominated headlines. The civil rights movement, Vietnam War protests, and urban unrest of the late 1960s shifted focus away from unsolved cases that seemed to offer little hope of resolution. Detective Sullivan retired from the Philadelphia Police Department in 1978, having spent the final years of his career periodically reviewing the Sister Mary Josephine file whenever new forensic techniques became available. His successor, Detective Frank Morrison, inherited not only the case files, but also the weight of community expectation that justice would eventually be served. The neighborhood surrounding St. Augustine's experienced significant demographic changes during the 1970s and 1980s. Many of the Irish and Italian families who had formed the school's core constituency moved to suburban areas, replaced by African American and Latino families seeking quality education for their children. The new community members learned about Sister Mary Josephine's story from longtime residents, who kept her memory alive through informal conversations and annual memorial services. Throughout the decades that followed, the case maintained a unique position in Philadelphia's collective memory. True crime enthusiasts and amateur investigators occasionally contacted police with theories or potential leads. Though none proved substantial enough to restart active investigation, the story became part of local folklore, passed down through generations of families who had attended St. Augustine's or lived in the surrounding neighborhood. By the 1990s, advances in forensic science had begun to offer new hope for cold case resolution. DNA analysis techniques that were unimaginable in 1965 started providing answers to decades-old mysteries across the country. The Sister Mary Josephine case file was among hundreds reviewed by Philadelphia Police Department cold case specialists, though limited physical evidence initially prevented meaningful progress. The passage of time had not diminished the impact of her death on those who remembered her dedication to education and faith. In March 2024, nearly 59 years after Sister Mary Josephine's death, Detective Lieutenant Maria Santos of the Philadelphia Police Department's Cold Case Unit made a discovery that would finally bring closure to one of the city's most enduring mysteries. The breakthrough came not from new evidence, but from the application of advanced forensic technology to materials that had been stored in evidence lockers for decades. The Philadelphia Police Department had established its dedicated cold case unit in 2018, part of a nationwide trend toward revisiting unsolved crimes using modern investigative techniques. Detective Santos, a 15-year veteran with specialized training in genetic genealogy, had been systematically reviewing cases from the 1960s and 1970s where biological evidence might yield new information through contemporary DNA analysis. The Sister Mary Josephine case presented unique challenges for forensic examination. The evidence collected in 1965 had been processed using the limited techniques available at the time, and much of the biological material had degraded over the intervening decades. However, Advances in DNA extraction and amplification methods had made it possible to obtain genetic profiles from increasingly small and deteriorated samples. Working with the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Laboratory, Detective Santos submitted several pieces of evidence for advanced DNA testing in late 2023. The process required months of careful analysis as technicians worked to extract usable genetic material from items that had been stored under varying conditions for nearly 6 decades. The breakthrough came when laboratory technicians successfully developed a partial DNA profile from evidence found at the crime scene. While the profile was incomplete, it contained enough genetic markers to be entered into the combined DNA index system, the national database that compares DNA evidence from unsolved crimes with profiles from convicted offenders and other cases. Initially, the database search produced no direct matches. However, Detective Santos had been trained in genetic genealogy techniques that allowed investigators to identify suspects through familial DNA connections. By uploading the genetic profile to public genealogy databases, she could potentially identify relatives of the perpetrator and work backward to determine the source of the crime scene DNA. The genetic genealogy process proved complex and time-consuming. Detective Santos worked with specialized consultants who constructed family trees based on DNA matches, identifying potential relatives of the unknown suspect. This process required careful verification of family relationships and elimination of individuals who could not have been present in Philadelphia in 1965. After months of painstaking genealogical research, investigators identified a potential suspect, Harold Brennan, a former maintenance worker who had been employed by the Archdiocese of Philadelphia during the mid-1960s. According to employment records, Brennan had worked at multiple Catholic schools in the area, including brief assignments at St. Augustine's during the months preceding Sister Mary Josephine's death. Brennan, now 81 years old, had been living in a nursing facility in suburban Philadelphia. His criminal history included several arrests for minor offenses during the 1970s and 1980s, but nothing that would have required DNA collection under the standards of that era. Investigators obtained a court order to collect a DNA sample from Brennan for comparison with the crime scene evidence. The laboratory analysis confirmed what Detective Santos had suspected. Harold Brennan's DNA matched the genetic profile developed from evidence collected at Sister Mary Josephine's crime scene. The statistical probability of the match occurring by chance was calculated at less than 1 in several billion, providing the definitive identification that had eluded investigators for nearly 6 decades. On September 3, 2024, Philadelphia police arrested Harold Brennan at the nursing facility where he had been residing. According to arrest records, Brennan appeared confused and disoriented during the arrest, showing signs of advanced dementia that would complicate any potential prosecution. Medical evaluations would later determine that his cognitive decline had progressed to the point where he was unlikely to be competent to stand trial. News of the arrest spread rapidly through Philadelphia's media outlets and social networks. The Philadelphia Inquirer published a front-page story detailing the breakthrough, while local television stations provided extensive coverage of the arrest and its significance for the St. Augustine's community. The announcement brought immediate reactions from various quarters. The Archdiocese of Philadelphia issued a statement expressing gratitude for the persistence of law enforcement and offering prayers for all those affected by the tragedy. Former students of Sister Mary Josephine, now in their 60s and 70s, shared memories of their beloved teacher and expressed relief that her killer had finally been identified. The case that had haunted Philadelphia for nearly 6 decades was finally approaching resolution. The arrest of Harold Brennan sent shockwaves through Philadelphia's Catholic community, particularly among those connected to St. Augustine's School. Within hours of the announcement, former students who had scattered across the country began reaching out to each other through social media and phone calls, sharing memories of Sister Mary Josephine and processing the complex emotions that accompanied the long-awaited breakthrough. Patricia Donovan, who had been in Sister Mary Josephine's fourth grade class during the 1964-1965 academic year, organized an impromptu gathering at a local restaurant near the school. According to attendees, more than 30 former students, now in their late 60s and early 70s, came together to share stories and reflect on the impact their teacher had made on their lives. Many spoke of how Sister Mary Josephine's death had shaped their understanding of mortality and injustice at an early age. The current administration at St. Augustine's, which had evolved significantly since 1965, faced the challenge of addressing the arrest with students and families who had no direct connection to the original tragedy. Principal Dr. Carmen Rodriguez issued a statement acknowledging the significance of the arrest, while emphasizing the school's commitment to maintaining a safe and supportive learning environment for current students. The Archdiocese of Philadelphia found itself navigating complex public relations territory. While church officials expressed gratitude for the resolution of the case, they also faced renewed scrutiny about institutional oversight and employee screening practices. Archbishop Nelson Perez issued a comprehensive statement acknowledging past failures in background checking procedures, while highlighting the extensive reforms implemented in recent decades. The O'Sullivan family, Sister Mary Josephine's surviving relatives, experienced a mixture of relief and renewed grief upon learning of Brennan's arrest. Her nephew, Kevin O'Sullivan, who had been 12 years old at the time of his aunt's death, spoke with reporters about the family's decades-long wait for answers. According to his statements, the family had never given up hope that justice would eventually be served, though they had not anticipated the resolution would come so many years later. Legal experts immediately began analyzing the challenges facing prosecutors in pursuing the case against Brennan. His advanced age and documented cognitive decline raised serious questions about his competency to stand trial. Pennsylvania law requires defendants to understand the charges against them and be able to assist in their own defense, standards that Brennan's medical condition made increasingly unlikely to meet. District Attorney Larry Krasner's office announced that they would proceed with formal charges while simultaneously ordering comprehensive medical evaluations to determine Brennan's mental capacity. The legal proceedings would need to balance the community's desire for justice with constitutional protections for defendants, regardless of their alleged crimes. The national media quickly picked up the story, with major news outlets highlighting the case as an example of how modern forensic technology could solve decades-old crimes. The Washington Post, New York Times, and CNN all featured articles about the breakthrough, focusing on the role of genetic genealogy in cold case investigations. True crime podcasts and television programs began reaching out to investigators and community members for interviews. The nursing facility where Brennan had been residing became an unexpected focal point of media attention. Administrators there faced questions about their knowledge of Brennan's background and whether they had been aware of any concerning behavior during his residency. According to facility records, Brennan had been a quiet resident who rarely interacted with staff or other patients, showing no signs of the violence that had characterized his earlier life. Detective Santos found herself thrust into the spotlight as the lead investigator who had finally solved the case. Her methodical approach to genetic genealogy and cold case investigation became a model for other departments across the country. The Philadelphia Police Department received inquiries from law enforcement agencies seeking guidance on implementing similar techniques for their own unsolved cases. The broader implications of the arrest extended beyond the immediate case. legal scholars and ethicists began discussing the challenges posed by solving crimes committed by individuals who had developed severe cognitive impairments in the intervening decades. The intersection of justice, mercy, and practical legal constraints created complex questions without easy answers. For the St. Augustine's community, the arrest provided a sense of closure that many had thought would never come. The knowledge that Sister Mary Josephine's killer had been identified, even if traditional justice might prove elusive, offered a form of peace that had been absent for nearly 6 decades. The case, that had begun with a missing morning greeting, had finally reached a resolution that honored both the pursuit of truth and the complexity of human justice.